VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. I am here on December 6th. We are in week 14. I am with Sal Spice. What it do, Sal?
Hello, nice to see you. We're matching today.
Yeah, we both I have a lot of yellow gold Viking stuff, but today I just have on a shirt that I got on a road trip, but we do match nevertheless. How's the week been?
The week has been good. I was just telling you before we started, it's kind of crazy that we're already back at the bank in 2 days now. I feel like the way that the season has fallen, how we've had these large gaps, it feels too soon to be back there, honestly, on Sunday. I'm not
Yeah.
mentally there yet, but it's been a good week.
Tell me, why are you a little downtrodden about hosting your tailgate, especially when Yannick Eckert and I will be in attendance? You were like, yeah, I don't even want to do this one.
No, of course it has nothing to do with you guys. I just feel so burnt out from the last one still because it was so cold. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's not even necessarily why. I think it's kind of like I said, I never really got into the swing of it yet this
hmm
year. So, to not have this break to recover, it just, it's just a lot of like physical labor and
hmm
work. And I love seeing everybody. But everyone assumes that I'm so, extroverted and I love socializing. And that is all true, but I'm actually much more introverted than people realize. So while I have so much fun, it drains me it for like at least a week. And so I'm just now getting some social recharge. So to be depleted again already, midway through Sunday, it's a little daunting. But I'm of course excited to see everyone. This is the game we've had circled on the calendar
hmm
all year, and I'll get there. I'll get there.
I think I knew when the schedule came out, and I will stand by it, that it's probably the coolest Vikings game of the season because of the Kirk angle. And then on top of that, which we'll talk about in about 20 minutes, like this is one of the most important games of Cousins' career. You can take the revenge aspect and throw it in the garbage. He needs to play decent or well to keep his job, because if he fires up a fourth stinker in a row, this is why they drafted Penix as a contingency plan for Cousins. Maybe we didn't think it would happen this fast, but
Mhm.
for Cousins' sake, I can't remember him having three poor games, especially these two horrid ones back to back. Are you worried for Cousins' sake? Do you think that he bounces back?
It's so hard to say with him because I think over the years, I think that's another reason he's such a polarizing figure is because he has shown that he is capable of, top five quarterback play. And then he'll put up a couple of those games and then it'll completely, reverse and we'll have the complete opposite. We've obviously never seen a stretch this bad, like you
hmm
said, but I can see it going either way with him. My gut tells me no, that he's going to crumble under the pressure of all of these extra circumstances. But there is a small chance we could get a little you like that game. He could maybe be inspired by the potential booing and things like that. My gut says no, but we've seen crazier.
Yeah, he has these stakes where we are like 5 days away from saying this guy never is going to bounce back from his Achilles, and we're talking hardcore about Michael Penix, or his team is 7-6 after beating his former team, and he's in the driver's seat to get to the postseason. It's almost like Kamala Harris stakes on election day. I was telling my wife like she's going to be the president of the United States, or she's not going to be able to run for the presidency again because we just won't trust her candidacy again. So
Yes.
with Cousins, it feels like all or nothing on top of him playing the team that he led for 6 years.
Right. And also we've said when they drafted Penix that okay, there are so many guys in this league that would take that with pride and take want to mentor a younger guy and pass the torch. And we've said Kirk Cousins is the one veteran quarterback that we do not think would would enjoy that. Is actually probably very perturbed that he's in this situation. So it will be interesting to see now that the rumors are out there that he could potentially be benched and all of that. Are we right with that assessment? Is he going to
hmm
crumble under that and that voice is going to get too loud, or can he rally given the circumstances of this week? It's going to be interesting either way.
And like, let's say he fires up another game with multiple picks and no touchdowns. Not only could he be benched, he should be benched, because that's what you do when a guy has four consecutive shitty games, 36 years old, torn Achilles. This could be the end. Now it's up to Kirk to figure out if he bounces back. I also, on the skittishness about him having a quarterback behind him, we had the Mannion for all those years just I think placate him. I think
Yeah.
that's why these Vikings feel so different when we have this QB2 Lollapalooza where we're like Nick Mullins, Brett Rippon, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, is because we were so accustomed for 6 years of just having a nobody on the bench.
Yeah, yeah, just the clipboard holder who is
Yeah.
not gonna ruffle any feathers. There's no threat of this guy is going to be coming in. Yeah, it is very very different, and you have to wonder if that's by design or if that's also salary, constraints and all of that stuff. But
hmm
he certainly is in a different situation now,
Yep. And his team
which
is
he
six.
wanted.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you know,
Everybody involved in this chose this. The Falcons chose to draft Penix, shockingly. Cousins chose the fatter paycheck in Atlanta. So, everybody is reaping what they sow. All right, we're 5 days removed from the Cardinals game where the Vikings came back from a 19-6 deficit. Um, Give me some of your aftermath Cardinals takes from that game. And then does it bug you that these Vikings we haven't blown anybody out or played like that dominant team in 10 weeks?
Well, it was certainly frustrating. It was, of course, impressive that the defense was able to just hold them to those field goals despite giving up, the 400 yards or whatever. It seemed when they were on offense that it was just they couldn't stop anything to me until they were in the red zone, and then they could. So that was, of course, impressive. It was keeping them in the game. But about midway through the third quarter, I just said, I just don't think this is their day. They just can't get it going. I was happily, proven wrong by that. I was really worried there that they gave them too much time to score with
hmm
the what now was it, a minute and 3 or
Yeah.
13 or something. I was like, oh, man, they're not, I don't know about this, but they held them, and that's what matters. Do I wish they were blowing teams out? Of course I do, but I think it goes back to what we always say is that good teams find a way to win, and this team, even though it might not look pretty during the game, towards the end they always figure it out how to put a drive together and how to come back and take the victory. So I don't really think at the end of the day it matters. I think I saw a tweet that you said that it's like over 80% of games this are one score games. I don't know. We talk about this all the time. It's so much different than the 13-3 season
hmm
where those seemed so fluky, so much based on luck and chance. Whereas this, I mean, Sam put together 3 drives at the end of the game, scoring drives to win. I don't know.
It felt like for the first 2 hours, it felt like one of those games during our fandom of these decades. We've had dozens of them where we're like, nothing is going right. Usually you look up on the scoreboard and you're like, oh, it's 27-3. Lovely. And you're thinking about the rest of your afternoon pissed in general. But this game was always so tight. And I think that's a testament to the defense, although it wasn't spellbinding for the first half or whatnot. They kept it close and that kept them within striking distance. But I was right there at 19-6. It was Yannick's first game of the year at the Viking
Yeah.
Stadium, and I feel like a host for some reason, and I'm like, God, he's coming to one of these stinkers. And then they did the thing, and they got a little bit hot, and the offense turned it on, and then they survived the 23-22. So at 10-2, almost a rubber stamp to the postseason. It'd have to be the weirdest collapse in Vikings history to miss out. Do you have grander visions than the one and done that we saw in the 2022 season? Like, or at least for how you expect it to play out?
Well, I think the Vikings just love to do a little comeback teaser for Yannick. I think that's kind of on brand for his first game
hmm
appearances here. But I think obviously it's going to depend on how it's going to map out. But I'm not necessarily scared of them facing any team. I don't think that they're maybe going to be able to beat every team, but I see them being competitive with every NFC team that there is. And so I think it is very possible that they can win a game. I'm oddly very confident that they can. I just don't think they get rattled by much. It seems like it'll be interesting to see Sam Darnold in the playoffs. Is the
hmm
moment too big for him? But I don't get that vibe at all
Mm-mm.
that anything really gets to him on that level. Like he just seems like he's enjoying the moment and taking it play by play as coaches tell you to. That's what he's actually doing.
I think he will be prime for a playoff moment or a couple because he would have already crumbled by now in a couple spots.
Yes.
And I always go back to NFL, really smart NFL folks thought this guy was worthy of the third overall pick, and that wasn't like a hot take. That was everybody knew it was coming. And part of that is you have the clutch gene, or at least that is why you're drafted that high. And if he didn't have that in his DNA, the Bears overtime drive probably wouldn't have happened. This last
Mhm.
Cardinals drive, the touchdown Aaron Jones, probably something would have fucked it up. And so I'm glad to see almost we haven't even really been asking to figure out if he had the clutch gene. He's just shown it to us. We were so paranoid for
Yes.
the first 2 months about, hey, is this going to be like 2016 or 2003? And then once we got over that fear, we kind of pivoted and we're like, oh, so Darnold can do the thing in the fourth quarter and overtime.
That's what's so interesting about him. All of these assessments that we've made about him, all these are just observations that we have made. It's not anything that has been asked in a press conference or asked of Kevin O'Connell or anything like that. Like with Kirk Cousins, we were always asking, okay, what kind of leader is he in the locker
Hmm.
room? Or does he have this in him? Or, we were always, how would he respond in this situation? We were always asking the coach and asking the players. Sam Darnold, they just come out and say it, or they just show it. It's not ever a talking point, and they're like, no one's ever asked, is Sam Darnold a leader in the locker room? You don't see this typical thing that you would picture, this loud alpha guy, getting everybody worked up. But we also don't even feel the need to ask
Hmm.
because you just see it. And the guys just say it in their post game, comments and stuff. It's just a different aura of like confidence that I see in him that we didn't see in Kirk Cousins. Um, and I loved it that they went back to Aaron Jones at the end, despite the mistakes that he had, the drops, the fumble, and he just had the confidence in him and he went to him. That to me just says that Sam Darnold knows what he's doing
That's
and
a
he
wonderful.
trusts his receivers.
It's a wonderful point about having to ask. Is Cousins the lead of this team? Because it's like I always kind of like it kind of stems from the LeBron Jordan debate that's endless. It's like you never have to ask what's the best search engine in the world. People just know it's Google. You never have to ask what's the best theme park in America. It's Disney. And so if you have to ask, there might be a little something there. You talked also about there's not really a team or like you don't have any butterflies other than the normal Vikings fan butterflies. And I agree wholeheartedly. Normally at this part of the season, for any Vikings team outside of 1998 or 2009, I'm always like, oh shit, there's no way we would go to Kansas City and win. And
Mhm.
if we had to play the Bills, we'd be cooked. I don't feel that about any NFL team, no matter how good the Lions roster is or how they won last night. And that's a rarity for me because there's always one or two teams where I can be like, that's the class that we're not in. Do you feel that
Yeah.
same way?
I do, and it's really weird. I mean, let me say, like, I would prefer them absolutely not go to Philadelphia under any circumstances. I would prefer them not go to say like Green Bay, but it's not the teams that necessarily get me and the rosters. It's that. I think that this is one of the more balanced teams that we've seen, which sounds weird. I don't know how to articulate what I mean as far as that goes, but it just feels like there's not any like blaring weak spots and there's also not it's very I think it's more proportionate, I guess is what I'm
Hmm.
trying to say. There's not these highs and lows as far as the roster goes. We're not depending too much on one aspect,
Hmm.
where in teams in the past I think we did. And I don't know, it feels strange, but I think it probably also has a lot to do with the fact that we didn't see this coming and we
Yeah.
are just evaluating all of it as it comes and not against these expectations that we had.
Yeah, I am right there with you. And even the 2017 team at about week 11, I was like, okay, holy shit, these guys are actually good. I haven't quite had that feeling for these Vikings.
Mhm.
When they were dominant in September, I started to daydream, like everybody did. But then they lost out of the bye, and you're like, here we go.
Yeah.
So I'm still climbing to get to that 2017 route. All right,
Well,
accidentally on Tuesday, Sally. I swear to God, it was accidentally. I think I created this firestorm about booing Kirk Cousins or not.
yeah,
And
yeah.
my little speech on this is I'm going to treat Kirk Cousins like I treated Kyler Murray last weekend. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be
Mhm.
obnoxious. But to my point, if he gets like a montage on the video board, which I don't think,
Ugh.
I will not personally boo the shit out of Kirk Cousins. But I found out in a heartbeat that that was either a minority opinion because most of the feedback on social media was he plays for the other team. He chased the bag. Of course, you boo the shit out of him. To me, booing a single player that played for you for that long feels more personal and it's not part of the fan experience. But to others, it very much is. Even my wife is like, oh, I'm going to boo him. So where do you
Mhm.
stand on Boo Cousins Gate?
I
And
was
you
very
never even really liked the guy that much.
no, I didn't. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying because there's some misconceptions out there about that. I so sorry, of course, Paul is in my court. I really enjoyed the points that you made. I think that when it comes to Kirk Cousins, and maybe sports in general, but specifically Kirk Cousins, logic just goes out the fucking window. And you can't, it's been how it has been the whole like 6 years. It's polar. You have to love him or you have to hate him. You can't be in the middle with him. I like that you were bringing up, well, if you better keep the same energy for Adam Thielen or for other players. And people just thought that was blasphemous. They couldn't connect the dots on that it was similar. And I was just, I thought it was an amazing point. I wrote a response. I'm like, I don't need to waste my whole day on this. But it's as far as booing goes, I mean, I'm going to keep like to not be like with Stephon Diggs. I was saying, you guys better not boo him. He wanted out. You got Justin Jefferson in return. Let everybody be happy there. And that was, that was a little bit of a different situation because he actively wanted to leave. I just think it's the same thing. Like this worked out for us. He's gone. Finally. And now we have a chance to now look at this roster now that he's off the books. This is what we've been, at least for me. I guess I'm seeing it from my point of view. For me, this is what I wanted the entire time. So no, good riddance. I do not think there will be any booing for me at all. I think it'll just be the same. I'll be rooting against him. I obviously have a little bit more vitriol again about it. And I do want them to win this game more than any other game this year, but it's not personal necessarily against him. The fans of his, I think, are what make this so weird. It's like, I don't know if it is this just the society that we live in today or what it is, but it's like people just don't want to be wrong about it still. And they still want to be proven right that like he should have stayed here. And I just don't get it. I don't get it why you can't just be I don't know.
Yannick Eckhart of Purple PTSD had the best point on this. He and I did a radio show together yesterday. So here's the state of play. The people that will boo Cousins, they didn't want him to quarterback the Vikings anymore, so he didn't. He left to the Falcons, and he's not playing well at all right now. Now he's coming back, and you're going to boo him because he left, which is what you wanted in the first place. So, like,
right?
Where's the disconnect here? It's
none of it really makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, if you like for me, I'm of the camp of like, well, I think he really set this franchise back a lot because I never thought that he was the answer, yada, yada, yada. We know the whole thing. But again, that also wasn't really his fault. I mean, I think the writing was kind of on the wall already, what kind of a quarterback that he was. It's not his fault he's getting these contracts. I think it's kind of shitty that he said, hey, I'd love to take a hometown discount. And then he was clearly not being honest about that. But at the same time, who cares? He's gone. He's somebody else's problem. Would you rather him be on your team right now throwing 4 picks last week?
Yeah.
And not even being able to get out of the easiest division in the NFC.
Yeah.
I'm just happy he's gone and we don't have to fucking argue about it anymore after this week, hopefully.
In week 3, we notably, unless I was asleep at the wheel, we didn't boo Diggs. So maybe there was enough time removed. And I think when I was trying to figure out that night, like, why did this tweet take off like this? I think it's because people viewed that tweet of mine an extension of me being a Cousins guy. And I think you learned over the years that the reason I became a Cousins guy on Twitter was because I tried to dispel the stupid dink and dunk narratives that he's only good in garbage time. Those were not true, but I think it always came back to we wanted him to be elite and carry the team to the postseason, and he was never quite that good.
No, he wasn't. And that was the reason that it didn't make sense to pay him what they had to pay him. Now, that's what the market demands. So that's not the Vikings' fault it's the Vikings' fault for obviously signing the contract and making the decision. But that's what he was going to get paid no matter where he was going to go, most likely. It's just that in 2018, when they made this initial decision, there were so many defensive players and others that needed to be extended and re-signed and to get this team back to another NFC championship. And that wasn't able to happen because the contract hindered him when, in my opinion, quarterback play was not what held them back from winning that game, that game. And then obviously the miracle where the defense collapsed. Quarterback play wasn't the issue. Could it have been better? Of course. But Kirk Cousins, in my opinion, wasn't better enough that it was worth it. And then, I mean, you remember when they extended him, what was that in 2022? I about jumped off the roof. I think we had a show shortly after. And I it was really hard for me those few years where they kept re-signing the restructuring. So there's an extra deal, an extra deal. What the fuck are they talking about? You're a Cousins guy. You're not an anybody guy. You're just a objective. Here's the facts guy. It's just that's what is wrong with this like world. You have to be this or that. You can't just be in the middle.
Yeah, I've
And
grown
that's
over these last 14 weeks to like Darnold just as much as I ever liked Cousins, and I'm really enjoying this Darnold story because he really loves. It seems like he loves being here and being on this team, probably because he gets the chance to prove everything.
of
Um,
course he does. Yeah. Why
all right,
wouldn't? There
we
he is.
can't
And
obligatory.
let me just to clarify though, because of course, the stupid simp in my mentions, trying to call me out for like my Kirk Cousins contradictions. Um, that was a fucking joke. And I get it that like you hate me, so you didn't listen to what I had to say on the matter for 6 years. Not until 2022 did I even like embrace the idea and have fun with it,
Hmm.
which I had to do for my own sanity. And he was playing well. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
going to shit on him when he won that home opener against the Packers. I ate crow and I had fun with it, and he kept rolling because he kept playing well. And it was I was the only person in my friend group for all of that time that didn't like him, and it fucking sucked.
Yeah.
So I had a good time with it. Now people are trying to act like
But
what
you were always one of the Kirk
well, right.
stands.
And like, here's the thing: if you're gonna roll around in a parking lot with a box of programs and you're being serious, then that's really kind of scary. If you're seriously that obsessed with someone, now, like, don't get me wrong, it's weird behavior regardless. It's
Hmm.
weird to do. But if you're doing it like out of all sincerity because you're that like enamored with your quarterback, that's kind of weird. Like, I love Sam Darnold. I'm not doing that for him, you know, at
All
all.
right, so we got the booing takes out of the way. We talked about Cousins, what I consider mammoth stakes for his career. I mean, fork in the road type shit. What do you expect between like in the game in general, and I'm sure that'll involve Cousins. What do you expect between the Vikings and Falcons in 2 days?
That's tough because I feel like what I've expected the last 5 weeks going into games for the most part hasn't been the case. Even though they've been wins, they have starting with the Jacksonville game that I think we both predicted was going to be
Yeah.
some massive blowout. Since I got that so incorrect, I feel like I hate to say it, but I don't want to see another game that's similar to the Cardinals game, but I
Hmm.
could certainly see it going that way. I hope that there's more turnovers on Kirk's on Kirk's end. I hope maybe there'll be some strip sacks. I think it's very interesting to see. I was looking at their stats, like comparing them earlier this week, and how Darnold has almost 200 rushing yards, and Kirk has zero, and literally zero, just because of how many negative plays. And so I kind of hope we can see that contrast in person a little bit, just to make it a little more obvious for the people who are still having a tough time. But God, I know this is a non-answer, but I can see it going so many different ways. I just really think it's going to go a good way for us and a bad way for Kirk.
Yeah, the swings that could happen with Cousins, I think, are all realistic. I don't think too many of us would be surprised if he showed up for 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he's back. It might be a little weird against this defense, but we know
Yeah.
he has that capability. He could be right in the middle where he bounces back for 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, maybe a pick. He could do the inverse, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, or he could go back to that Chargers game where he was woeful. And none of those, I wouldn't leave US Bank Stadium with any of those outcomes going, boy, we didn't see that one coming. That's
Right.
how that's how over the board he could be. But I'll reiterate, it's a huge game for his trajectory. I think the Vikings will win 31-24. What do you have?
Um, I think they will also win. I think that's a good. I keep going for these like 30-point games and they're just not happening,
Hmm.
which is surprising. But hopefully they will not have any more turnovers. I will say, let me say 27 to maybe a 17. I hope that Kirk stays completely at the end. So I know that the bank is going to be super loud. Everyone's going to be very engaged. I think that's going to get him off kilter for sure. Um, not booing, just like what you were saying, treat it like it was any other thing. But I do think it's going to be much louder than it was last week because right now the tickets are the most expensive that they have been since the Lions game. So that's an interesting turn of events because they were dirt cheap last week. I think
Yeah.
they were like $40 lower level if you waited till the end. So I think people are fired up for this game. And I
I think
think he's been in his head all year long, but definitely this week, he's stressing.
I think the Cardinals fan base is either small or doesn't travel well because there was so little red from my vantage point. And there are some games with 49ers, Packers, of course,
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, good God, like this is way too many people. All right, we'll talk about this a lot in 6 weeks, but so since you have become enamored with the Sam Darnold experience, like a lot of us had, is your ideal scenario that he finds a way to come back for like 20 million after examining the market, and then we do this all over again with the summer quarterback debate, or would you rather just roll with McCarthy and let Sam go to the Giants or something?
Yeah, oh God, as much as I do love Sam Darnold, for my own mental sanity, I would really not rather have a quarterback controversy at all. And I obviously it's going to have so much to do with how he performs in
Yeah.
the playoffs and all of that. For him, I just want him to be able to land in a spot that's safe for him to continue to grow and be successful, get his bag as long of a term deal as he can in a place that allows him to thrive. My gut does not tell me that's Minnesota
Hmm.
just because of the circumstances. It's so unique and interesting how we're begging for a good quarterback for decades. Now all this we're begging for, a high draft pick. We got that. Now we got a stable quarterback. Same with the kicker situation. It's bizarre. Um, but yeah, I don't see it happening. I don't. As much as I would like for it to.
Yeah, I think the only Hail Mary to have Darnold back, and then you have the best of both worlds, is that he goes and peaks at the open market. And I'll continue to say this: the only job that he can get where he gets the baton unabashedly would probably be the Rams if Matthew Stafford retires, because otherwise he's probably going to go do this same shit again, where the Giants draft somebody and he's going to be a bridge, or the Raiders draft somebody and he's the bridge. And maybe he does that again and keeps, parlaying this. But I don't think that there's going to be five teams lining up to make him the QB1 henceforth, because the teams that need quarterbacks right now probably don't want. Maybe Darnold will be good for us too. They probably want their Shadur Sanders or Jalen Milroe from the draft. So I guess I want to taper expectations that Sam. I hope that he gets his 35, $40 million deal, or maybe that Baker Mayfield deal, which was like 3 years and 90 million or something like that. But I don't know that there's going to be this huge festival to go sign Sam Darnold as the QB1, and that's it. We don't even need to draft anybody. Do you
Yeah.
disagree?
Well, the thing is, because I just love him and care about him and his success so much now, I don't want him to go to a diseased
Yeah.
franchise like the Giants or like the Raiders. And I think that he has been through enough that he maybe would be like, hey, it's a difference in a couple $1 million or whatever the case may be, but I don't think that's going to be good for my career, my mental health, or any of that. And he has the wits about him now to evaluate what is going to be a good situation for him. So you're right. There isn't really one of those landing spots that isn't potentially toxic out there, other than, you talked about the Rams and maybe they'll see what happens with Purdy and the 49ers. But yeah, I guess it depends on who they draft and if how ready NFL ready they are. But I just want him to be successful.
Well, maybe
I
when he come,
he's
maybe when
been
he
through
comes
so much.
back, we can boo the shit out of him,
No,
because that's
I
what we
will.
do.
No, I will never be booing him. But but then I think about it and it's like, well, I mean, this obviously didn't work out for Case Keenum, but look at how much money he got paid
Hmm.
by Denver. So I know somebody will pay it. It's just, is it going to be a good
Yeah,
situation for him?
yeah. I think it'll boil down to how willing he's. Well, he's basically going to have to do the. I think he's going to have to do the exact same thing that he just did with the Vikings, which is, hey, the Giants drafted Carson Beck or something. Now we're going to have an honest to goodness battle this August between you and Carson Beck. I think he's going to have to go through that again, and then notably next year, maybe even this year with Parker Romo, we're going to have two Vikings that we have no ill will towards that are going to be playing for other teams. Parker Romo and Sam Darnold, which will be kind of cool, I guess, in a way.
Very cool. Very cool. It's just crazy how this has worked out. And
Yeah.
wait, is Will back this week? I haven't gotten the
Yeah,
update.
he's trending that way. It looks like Stephon Gilmore probably will be out, and then we'll do Fabian Moreau or Dwight
Ugh,
McLaughlin, and then just kind of the way it goes for old cornerbacks. And then Riker's been a full participant in practice. They activated Andrew DePaula. I think they're probably a package deal
yeah.
for the continuity. All right, Sal, we will see you in person. My wife, Yannick Eckhart, my kid, Stone Baker, on Sunday, and then we'll
We'll
have you
see you
back on the
Sunday.
show a week from right now to talk about the Bears on Monday Night Football. All right?
Beautiful. Yes. Can't wait to see you. It's going to be like 40 degrees. So
Yeah.
much improved from last week.
I hear you. All right, we'll talk to you then.
All right. Bye.
Later.